Hello and well met, folks. This is Founder Levrun again. We're going to be talking more about creating assets for streaming, for OBS, for backgrounds. We're going to make videos, that sort of thing. So we have tools that we've been looking at over the last couple episodes. We're looking at Canva. We're looking at using GIMP, those sort of things. So more of a free or freemium type thing. So Canva is free, but it is very limited. It doesn't have as many assets and you can't access all the tools. So there are other programs out there like GIMP and paint.net and other resources that you can use to achieve similar results. If you have Paint Shop Pro or the Affinity, or perhaps you have Corel, those are also good tools to use to create content. So what I'm going to do is actually try to create a themed kind of overlay for Fantasy Grounds itself. So not any specific genre or any specific elements, although this one will be a little bit more based on fantasy. I just want to let you know that you don't have to always have a fantasy theme. And as a matter of fact, when you are streaming, I noticed that a lot of the older Twitch type stuff would use those collegiate logos. They look like high school or college football logos. Those look okay, I think, for gaming and such, but I'm not so sure about, I'm talking about video games, but I'm not so sure about Fantasy Grounds or any other RPG. I do like some of the creative solutions that some of the other streamers have come up with, but when you really want to make a presentation or you want to show off your stream, or you're trying to do a video, maybe you need a background or something, it's really important to have those assets available to you. So there's a couple resources that I wanted to point out, and then I also wanted to show you a little bit about Canva and how you can kind of help with that. So without further ado, the first thing I wanted to mention, and all these links and tools and stuff will be provided at the end of the video in the description. So as it stands right now, I have OBS. This is what I'm showing right now. And I essentially have just Fantasy Grounds as a background for the time being. As I go forward, I'll be using Canva and other programs, so kind of show you behind the scenes stuff. So the first thing I thought about doing is just getting a screenshot of Fantasy Grounds itself. So load up your favorite theme, or you don't even have to have a theme, you can just leave it blank. And I suggest if you want more of a sci-fi theme, you can use, Starfinder or Traveler or Cyberpunk or one of those other themes if that's what you're going for. In this case, I just want to do like a Smiteworks type thing, like just kind of dedicated to the Smiteworks Fantasy Grounds brand. I kind of wanted to make it, that. And I was kind of thinking about what logos, what colors, those sort of things. So I settled on using the classic Fantasy Grounds background. So for the stream and for this, I'm just going to use in the extensions, I'm going to make a I'm going to create a new campaign, a fresh one. I'm going to select the rule set, but you could use the core RPG. It doesn't have to be any specific game set. Obviously going to be on land, because I don't need to share the connection. Then up here, I'm going to call this overlay, and then we'll do Fantasy Grounds, and I'm just going to put 5e just so I know what category or what rule set I was using. And then the actual theme that I want to feature, because it's kind of based off of the classic look of Fantasy Grounds, it's kind of a recognizable brand. So I'm going to use the classic one. That's the one I'm most familiar with. So that's the leather theme. But if you want to use the new Baron theme, which has been updated, by the way, or any of your other favorite themes, maybe you like that Sir Mott's Dark theme, whatever it is, you kind of want to use that as your base. So I'm going to grab that. What's this Fantasy Grounds Classic? What is that? Oh, that's a Fantasy Grounds Classic theme, I see. Okay, so I want the leather, and I don't have any need for a password, but I just have a habit of doing that. And then there are pretty much nothing else I need right now. So I'm going to go ahead and hit start. And what I want to do is capture some screenshots out of the actual interface to help me design some borders and some backgrounds and texture. The other thing I wanted to mention was that there is some resources online on the Fantasy Grounds Atlassian. So if you didn't know that, there is a press kit online that is offered through the Atlassian, which is the official Fantasy Grounds press kit. So it's not too old. I think Brad updated it last year. So this gives you the, all the social media type stuff, gives you a little bit of history, talks about the features of Fantasy Grounds, and then you have all these logos that are available. So you can actually download these and use these for your assets. So I downloaded this zip file which has some of the assets, and this was made in Q3. So it's not too old, it's not too out of date. Although I would like to get my hands on some of the older icons, because I think it'd be kind of cool to show the evolution of the platform and all that stuff, but that would be for like a show, not for the overlay. So anyways, that's the assets that you can get for the public assets. If you need other ones, just get a hold of SmiteWorks and they'll probably send you some. But I actually have all the different color variations and such. But if you need something specific, just get a hold of Brad or Doug, and they'll hook you up. But this is just a kind of like a resource that you can use if you need any of the logos. Instead of trying to right-click and save one of these logos from their website, it's better to use the press kit because they're a little bit bigger and a little bit higher quality in some cases. So that's kind of what I use to help build some of the assets that I build for making overlays and backgrounds and such. You don't have to use this. You can use stuff out of your games. And as a matter of fact, if you like Kobold Press or any other specific brand of role-playing, Kobold Press actually has their own press kit that's basically available for free. And what it is that if you're into that, you can go to their Tales of the Valiant, and there is a free kit that you can download that will give you assets for building stuff like an overlay or a background or whatever you need it for, and it's actually free. So there's some Tales of the Valiant bookmarks, which I really thought were cool. Those would make really good assets for using in your streams, like if you want to use around the borders. Even though they're not designed for that, they're designed for bookmarks. They're really neat looking assets. And then here's the creator kit that I was telling you about. So this is free. You can add it to your cart. This doesn't cost anything, but it has overlays and it has like assets. So if you want to do some streaming, you already have some really nice themed looking stuff, which I think is really smart, especially if they're trying to push that narrative of getting their programs. So there other companies do this to a lesser extent, but this one's actually really well done. Like I downloaded it and it has the PNG assets, and it looks really good. It looks really sharp. I actually made one. Maybe I'll pull that up later, but I tried my own attempt at making my own kind of background thing. It looks pretty good. It's pretty sharp. It's themed for the game, that sort of thing. So you can look on the publisher websites, or you can email their social media people and ask them for assets, and they might give them to you because they want you to advertise for them. So I don't see why they wouldn't. They may even get some kind of agreement with you if you negotiate with them and you already kind of have somewhat of a following, or maybe it's a niche thing that they don't fill. They might even work with you and give you a affiliate code. So you never know. But if you don't care about that, that's fine. But I just wanted you to know where some of the resources are. And obviously I've used ChatGPT to help me create these tweets and X's and Facebooks and Bookface and all this other stuff. So this is also a way to kind of make this a little easier if you're going to do advertising for yourself, you want to promote your website, whatever it is. So that kind of helps with that. Canva is just a really good all-around tool. I don't know if you're aware yet, but they bought out the Affinity platform. So they bought that software suite. So I imagine we'll get a lot more assets and functionality based on what they've pulled in. So we'll see how that turns out. But basically I have a template. This is called Images for Fantasy Grounds. So this might be used for like I don't know, maybe a background or decal or something like that. But I'm going to actually create my own template for this. And then I'm going to go into the brand and update that. So the brand is basically all the colors, the logos, all that kind of stuff. So I have one for Smiteworks or Fantasy Grounds. So that is, here's the Tales of the Valiant I was telling you about. Let's see. So I'm going to go into this Fantasy Grounds, select that brand kit, and what you can do is you can edit the type of thing that you want. The brand voice is kind of like your mission statement, or perhaps your kind of summary of what you do, what you're about. You can make your own. Generally speaking, you upload the content that you're going to be using. So you can see I got a lot of assets here. And the ones I'm going to add might be a little redundant, but I'm still going to add them so I have access to them during the show. So you can upload logos and images. So what I'm going to do is go to the downloads folder, and I want to see I want to make sure I have the correct thing here. So I want to go to downloads. Is there any compressed? Nope. So it must be my downloads folder. Okay. So this is something I struggle with every episode. I'm always digging through my hard drive trying to figure out where stuff went when I saved it. But I think this one actually went where it's supposed to go, which is amazing. So I hate that you don't always have control of where stuff goes. And I even assigned it, and it still does whatever the hell it wants. Let's see. So downloads. Okay, so I downloaded the zip file, which was the asset that I was showing you earlier. So that was from the Smiteworks Atlassian website. So where did that go? I'd like to know. Let's see. So sort by type. And then group by type. Let's see what we got here. Oh, that's not doing it. So let me go back to the website, which is really annoying. But okay, so here's the press kit. And there is a link here to download these images, or you can download them individually. So let me see if I actually downloaded this or not. So here's the download button. Oh, okay. I didn't initiate this, but it goes to download Smiteworks. Okay, got it. Okay, so that's that. Now I'm going to go back into Canva to help build this. So let me go into my folder and uncompress that. So D downloads Smiteworks. So D downloads. There we go. Okay, so once this is done sorting out, I'll go ahead and decompress the actual information that came from the press kit. So that's kind of your first step, is sourcing out your tools and your art. So that's kind of the biggest part, I think, the biggest hurdle is just finding all that stuff and kind of incorporating it into your design. If you're really creative and you know what you're doing, you can design your own stuff. You don't have to use anything that the companies have given you. Although I think they prefer that, because if you're representing their brand, they might have a requirement, because they don't want just anyone just altering their stuff and making it look weird or something. Maybe you probably have to have permission to do that. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and extract all of those Q3 assets. And if you come in here, this is basically your basics here. So I want to put those into the branding that I have here. So I'm going to upload those into Canva, into the branding area for Smiteworks and Fantasy Grounds. So I'm going to go to downloads, and again, I wanted Smiteworks. There we go. So here's the press kit. So I want to add those. So right now it's going to add all these decals. I might have already had them, but I don't have a good handle on which ones I do and don't have. But that's a really good start. If you don't have all these color variations, at least you have the generic basic ones. And then in uploads, here are some screenshots to kind of give you some ideas of what Fantasy Grounds might look like. So let's put in some screenshots in case you need those. Obviously you can make your own. That's what we're going to be doing later, is I'm going to have a generic screenshot. I might upload it into here, I don't know, but I like to have a clean one that doesn't have any branding necessarily or anything like that. And I'm going to use that to build the assets. So this is going to create that. And as far as this goes, says images for Fantasy Grounds, but what I'm going to do is actually switch this. So you can do a resize and magic switch. And I want to make this for a 2K resolutions to start with. So there's a custom size, and then you can add whatever it is that you need. So I don't want 1000 by 1000. I want this. There's a 14 by 256, so or 2560 by 1480. So that's going to make this pretty good size, but 1440, excuse me. And it's going to be a horizontal orientation. So that's going to be what it is. So do that. And whoops, why did it do that? Okay, so we're going to do this. That's not what I wanted. Let's see. So basically I'm trying to resize. Maybe I'll start with a new one. So let me go back. Okay, so I'll do a whole new design. And it's important to get started with the right thing. So create a new design, custom size. Here's the size I want. Okay, so this is like your canvas, right? So you want everything kind of set and ready. And then here's this. So I don't need that anymore. Here's on ChatGPT. Okay, so basically what I'm going to do is go into Fantasy Grounds and set this up the way I want it to be set. So obviously I don't want this to go, but I do want to load the SRD in case I want to show something later. It's generally all I use. And then if you want any other options, you can do that. So I do want some options here. So obviously I want to get rid of this black here, maybe make it like a yellow color. So that's in case I make any pointers. The background decal, I'm going to wipe that out. So I'm going to clear that. And that will erase anything in the background. And then for finishing, I'm just going to add the dice tower. So show dice tower on. Alright, so this is kind of your classic desktop look, so that's why I'm using this, but I'm going to arrange it a little bit better. I wouldn't say better, but a little bit more to my liking. Maybe just widen this a little bit, bring this over. It just doesn't represent the base when you first open up Fantasy Grounds, which might be something you want to do if you're going to display this kind of stuff in your streams, especially if it was like educational. But if it's a game, you can have all your players and maps and everything set up. But the other thing I'm going to do is add that Fantasy Grounds logo in the background. I think that looks pretty sharp. So I want to go back into the decals, which I should have done when I had it open. That's all right. So click on that, go to background decals. This has gotten better, by the way. It used to take a long time for the assets to come up. Like it would freeze or hesitate. I don't know what they did. They optimized it or something, so it doesn't take as long to generate these thumbnails. Maybe it's because they're WebP now or WebM. Let's see. So there is a decal. I think it's one of my favorites that Brad and Josh put together for the platform. I never thought I'd find myself in this kind of advertising thing, but when you have an affiliate code that you're trying to promote, or when you're trying to promote your stream, or maybe you monetize your YouTube channel or whatever it may be, this stuff starts to come into play more. If you're just playing and you don't really do anything like that, it might be useless to you, but it will hopefully inspire you to start doing your own, or at least setting up your own thing. So here's a preview image of this. I think this one looks the best with this theme. I don't know if you guys agree with me or not, but I think it looks pretty sharp. And then I'm going to theme the dice the same color as this. So I'm going to bring up the dice pack. So this is assuming that you have at least a couple sets, but you can just use this basic default one. And for the body, I'll click on that and I'll use this little color picker. And then I'm going to actually make this yellow, the body, so that we can see the dice And then for the text, I'm going to use this brown color of the logo. So that's your basics there for the dice. And then if you want them to look fancier, if you own any of these fancier sets, you know, you can obviously add design to it. So like this kind of has a little bit of a design. I don't know if I like that one. This one looks pretty sharp. So I'm going to get the one that has the effect on it. There we go. So I just used the branding of the colors from this logo to redesign the dice, but you can do whatever colors you want. I mean, it may even be themed for your game or something, but this is just for the overlay part. So now with that in mind, I don't think I want to change too much else. I think this is good enough. Like I don't think I need to change a whole lot more, because I just want a screenshot of the entire screen, just kind of blank like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the print screen. And if you do the print screen, it's going to essentially make a screenshot. And then I can also do my own here, but I'm not going to do that. And now I'm going to save this session because I might use it again in the future for like a blank slate. So I went ahead and did a right/save to save the campaign and any of the changes that I made. The other thing you may want to do if you're going to do all this setup and all these nice things is change the desktop restore Windows on start. So if you turn that on, next time I come back here, it'll lay it out the same exact way I had it before. So that's kind of important. And now I'm going to right click. This is the way you exit Fantasy Grounds. You go to the X there, and then you go ahead and go return to launcher. And that's going to bring you back to this page. That's the correct way to exit out. If you just click on the X and you're in the middle of something, you have a slight chance of losing data. So it means that Fantasy Grounds wasn't able to write whatever you were editing at the time. And it does it every 5 or 10 minutes, but you don't know when that's going to occur. So it's better to exit properly, depending on what you're doing. If you just went in to look something up or look at something, no big deal. But if you go in and make changes like edit maps and that kind of thing, you want to make sure you exit properly. Now the campaign itself is going to be stored in the back end of Fantasy Grounds, but I'm going to go up here on the top left. This is the back end folder here where the directories are. So if you ever wanted to know how to get to them easier, there's a spot up there. And then what I'm going to do is take this screenshot. See, these are all screenshots that I've taken over the months. I'll clean these out every now and then and put them in a drive somewhere to get rid of the storage requirement. But this is how it turned out for this particular. It's not bad. So you're only getting Fantasy Grounds. You're not getting all the borders and all the extra stuff. So that's kind of why I did it this way. This is also going to help me size the assets for the overlay. So that's why I did it like this. So you just have Fantasy Grounds right here without the borders. The borders will be included in OBS because it's the program. But if I do the block it out properly and such, I'll know what to do with it. So that's that. So that's going to help with not only just for sizing, but also for creating assets and such. So that's going to be what I'm going to use for my template. And I'll leave this kind of, I guess I can close it now. But now what I'm going to do is add this Fantasy Grounds image that I had found and put that into Canva. And then that's going to be basically the starting point. So this, I'm going to just size this up and see where we end up. So that is going to basically give me that. Okay, so I got a little bit of a border down here and a little bit of a border down here, which isn't too bad, but what I might do is shrink this a touch and then recenter it. What I want to do is kind of make it even, where this part and this part are similar in size. So that's pretty close. So that's where I would probably size it. And then if you wanted to do like I normally do, I usually put Fantasy Grounds in this upper right corner and leave this little border up here and on the side. And then I got a thicker one down here that I can use for, you know, for whatever. So that, don't want it to overcrowd too much. But the centering of this, or where you leave it, is going to be critical for building your background. So I'll do something like that. I think that's close, but I don't like the margin on this side. So maybe I will put that back up here. There we go. So I don't know if that looks centered. Not centered, dead centered here, but even enough to where it looks good. Yeah, so I want to have a little bit more meat here on this side. So I wanted this to look a little bit more uniform. Let's see. So that looks okay. Yeah, so I'm just playing around with the dimensions here. I'm not trying to rescale this too much because I want to keep it as close to the aspect ratio as possible for when you stretch Fantasy Grounds. But it's already going to be kind of jacked up because we don't have this border that normally is with Fantasy Grounds or your desktop border on the bottom. So that's kind of what I'm sizing this for. When I make the overlay, that's kind of what I want to do. So now what I'm going to do is take and create a square, just some kind of random block here, and then take this and basically stretch it to where it's going to line up with whatever I have here. And that's going to be my kind of my border. Something like that. And then I'm going to stretch it a little bit further, or a little bit further than Fantasy Grounds, and see what that looks like. So I'll put it behind it just to see. So that's just a big block out, right? This is gonna be the screen. And I generally want to show the screen more than, or show Fantasy Grounds more than just people and such. So that's kind of my preference. But if you wanted to, you can leave this open and put all your players right here on the sides. So it just depends on what you're trying to do. But I want to go ahead and send this one backwards. Alright, so what I want to do with this is first check out the dimensions. Yeah, I don't know if this is going to work or not, but just to kind of get it centered a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty good. So that's not bad. Give you a little bit of room down here, a little bit of trim on the borders. I don't necessarily want this thing to be this. Maybe I'll increase Fantasy Grounds more a little bit. So I'll drag it from the corner, kind of recenter it, see where we're at. There we go. So this is the critical part, the layout. Well, that's all I'm doing right now is kind of laying out the parameters here. So this yellow actually comes from the logo. So when you do your branding, you can actually take colors from the logos or the information that you provide, the actual logos or whatever, and this is like the main Fantasy Grounds stuff. So you can actually hit shuffle and it will change the colors based off of the brand. So you have all these options where you can kind of mess with that. So I kind of like the brown. You don't necessarily have to keep this background this color, but this just kind of gives you an idea of what the color schemes will look like. So the shuffle option is kind of neat because it gives you kind of a variation of the layers of color that you might be using. So probably that one is going to be the ticket. I want that darker border, I think. I could make it blacks or white so it stands out more, but let me see what that looks like. Yeah, but I don't like how thick it looks, so I'm going to kind of fix that a little with this, stretching this out a little bit more. I don't mind having the border, I just don't want it too thick. Like, it'll just look... Yeah. That's kind of close. I mean, it doesn't have to be real perfect, but it looks off over here for some reason. It could just be my eyeballs. But anyways, this is just kind of... And then you can use the arrow keys. So I select the image and then use the arrow keys to kind of center it back up in case you make little fine adjustments. And it's not too bad. Maybe the brown was better. Yeah, I think that brown is gonna be the one, and then I'll put like a black or white border or yellow border or something inside. So let's see what we can do with that. So now that we have an idea of where Fantasy Grounds is going to be sitting, I'm going to leave this here, but I'm going to add another white block because that's the part we're going to cut out. So we can take and go back to the elements, just add another rectangle. This one will be white because that's what I'm going to use to remove it when I go to make the transparency for it. So all this Fantasy Grounds section is going to be cut out. So that's going to be the cutout part. Now this background, what I was thinking about doing is taking that screenshot that we used before. So let me go to the uploads, take this thing and do some stuff with it. And what I need to do is actually go back into Fantasy Grounds and just grab the center without this. So let me get rid of that, go back into Fantasy Grounds, and I'm going to load the campaign, but this time I'm going to take away all of the assets or reduce them as much as I can, because that's going to be my texture or the pieces of this I might use for the design process. So this is kind of a labor of love. This is kind of unnecessary in a lot of cases, but I like playing around with it, and I'd really like to have the stream look better, because I looked at a lot of different streams out there, and a lot of people are still using those college logos. They look like a high school football logo with like a gator. Or, you know, it's just, I don't know, it just doesn't really fit the narrative of a role-playing game as much, unless it's like your, you know, like that's your party, you know, like maybe an image that has like a silhouette of your party or something. That might work, but I don't know if I necessarily want like a college logo, because that's what we had with the initial Fantasy Grounds Academy. It's kind of is a college, so we have that logo. But when it comes to like a fantasy game stream, I think I'd want it a little bit more fantasy-esque. So I'm going to take this and clear this background out now, because I don't want that in there anymore. And then what I will do is take this and make this as small as possible. And then take and get rid of the dice, maybe. And how you can get rid of dice is, first of all, you can make them smaller, but then you can also hide them. Okay, so you don't have to have them on the desktop, at least not now. And then I'm not worried about the dice color anymore because we got rid of them. And then turn off the dice tower. So go into this options, and I'm going to turn the dice tower off right now. There we go. So that's about as blank as you're going to get it without, you know, without shutting everything down. I can actually collapse this thing down. So now that's a pretty good space for texture, for a screen grab, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit print screen first, just so I can have a nice color copy of it. And then what you could do is, if you have a screen capture program, like I have GreenShot, which will capture, you know, your defined areas. So I might come in here and get as close to this without actually grabbing that, and then come over here and just grab a majority of this content here. That's a pretty big asset. So copy to clipboard. So you can do something like this too. And then what you do is hit Control V, and now you kind of have this blank slate, right? You can do whatever you want with this. So I can take this and actually use this as my border instead of a color. Use something like that. And then what I'll do is I'll send it backwards to the very back. And then you have this kind of contrast. So now what I'm going to do is take this and move it. So maybe do that so that it stands out. But anyways, you get the idea. You can take your branding and upload the logos and grab the colors. And then I'm going to do another video later where I actually start adding more embellishments to it. But if you have the logos loaded or you have copies of them, you can use them wherever you like in the design process. So like for instance, this, I always said, like before, I put this in the corner, you know, wherever you want to do. Or maybe you just want it like this. It kind of gives it that kind of cool, like kind of label thing here. Maybe not quite as big. Something like that, and then maybe move it over a hair so it's not right at the edge. There we go. So you can do something like that, and this will make it look kind of themed. And now let's take Fantasy Grounds and put that in there and see what it looks like. So we're not done yet, but we got a good start. So if I go to brand, or excuse me, I go back to the uploads and bring in Fantasy Grounds just so you get an idea of what it's going to look like aesthetically. Yeah, so that looks pretty decent. Obviously, this is not going to be covering that, so if I bring this back one, it'll look like that. That's not too bad. So you kind of get an idea of how you can theme stuff. And like I said, if you use like Starfinder or a different rule set, you can kind of do something similar. The main thing is grabbing these textures and the designs from your rule set or from your website or whatever brand you like. But hopefully that helps you with that part of it. And I'm going to continue building this and make it look a little neater. I'm going to add, you know, Smiteworks logo on here somewhere, and then just kind of make it a little bit more minimal. And that will give room for players and people to add their own stuff. Because if I add too much stuff on here, it's going to take away from their ability to add their own assets. So you don't want it too busy. And then I'm going to still make this border a little bit skinnier. I don't like the way, I want it to be thin. Yeah, something like that would be a lot neater. There we go. Something, there we go. That looks pretty good. So anyways, you get the idea of kind of where it's going to line up and, you know, what it's going to look like. So I just took a screenshot of Fantasy Grounds and then added it in. So anyways, the music that we have here in the background was provided by Monument Studios. They're having a big sale. I don't know if you guys care about this or not, but the next 3 or 4 hours, they have this huge sale where you can get everything for like $30. So we're totally worth it. But anyways, folks, take care. Have a great Monday. Enjoy the rest of your week. And I'll see you around again soon. I'm going to continue working on this overlay, so I'll come back to this. All right, guys, take care. Bye-bye.